The pain hit me like a freight train, volts ripping through my body as I crumpled to the hard pavement outside the police precinct, my muscles locking up in violent spasms that made every inch of me scream. It felt like fire exploding in my veins, my chest tightening so I could barely gasp for air, my vision blurring into a haze of spots and shadows while my limbs jerked uncontrollably against the cold concrete scraping my skin. Helplessness washed over me in that instant, my mind reeling in shock. How could this be real? This brutal force turning my world upside down right where I should have felt safest? Welcome to Melina's Stories. I share new life stories here every day, and I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and liked my video. Drop a comment down below telling me where you're watching from and what time it is for you, right now. I read every single comment, and it helps me to know I'm not alone in this. To grasp why this cut so deep, you need to know my life before that moment shattered everything. I'm Jamal Thompson, a 17-year-old black teen growing up in a peaceful suburban neighborhood. The kind with manicured lawns and quiet streets that make you think you've escaped the worst of the world. I'm a top student at my high school, acing classes and staying out of trouble, with my eyes set on college next year. Maybe criminal justice to honor my dad's path, or something in tech to carve my own way forward. My family's worked tirelessly for this stability. Mom's a nurse, clocking endless hours at the hospital to keep us afloat. Her exhaustion hidden behind that fierce love she shows in every home-cooked meal and late night talk. Dad's the police captain, a man who's risen through the ranks with integrity, teaching me that hard work and respect could shield us from the racism I see on the news. I've always felt this bubble of security because of him, like his badge extended protection over me, making me believe I was somehow above the systemic biases that plague so many others. Subtle stares from neighbors, the extra caution I take walking at night, but deep down, there's this nagging inner conflict, wondering if that illusion could hold forever. That afternoon seemed ordinary enough. School wrapped early due to a faculty meeting. So I texted Dad for a ride since Mom had the car for her shift. He said he'd be out in an hour. So I strolled the short distance to the precinct and plopped down on the bench outside. Backpack at my feet, just scrolling my phone under the fading sun. A few familiar officers nodded as they passed. I'd been here plenty of times, dropping off coffee or waiting after games. Nothing about me screamed trouble. Jeans, hoodie, sneakers, just a regular kid killing time. Then Officer Reynolds pulled up in his cruiser, stepping out with that predatory stare, his hand inching toward his taser like I was already guilty. "What are you doing here, kid? Loitering around a cop shop? Move it," he barked, his tone laced with immediate suspicion that made my stomach twist. I stayed calm, hands up where he could see. "Officer, I'm waiting for my dad. He's Captain Thompson inside. I can prove it. Just call him." He laughed dismissively, eyes narrowing with contempt. "Sure you are. You all say that. Get up, hands behind your back." His grip latched onto my arm, yanking it roughly, pain shooting up as I instinctively pulled back. Not fighting, just reacting. "Resisting," he yelled, and before I could blink, the taser slammed into me, the shock overwhelming everything, my body arching in agony, betrayal flooding my thoughts as I hit the ground, humiliated and confused, treated like a worthless criminal, despite my dad's rank protecting people every day. How could this happen? The illusion of safety crumbled, leaving me exposed and raw. Chaos erupted around me, voices shouting, feet rushing. Sergeant Ramirez burst through, recognizing me instantly. "Reynolds, stop!" "That's the captain's son." He radioed for help while Reynolds stammered, his face paling. Dad charged out moments later, dropping beside me, his hands shaking as he removed the cuffs. "Jamal, son, what happened? God, are you hurt?" His voice cracked with fury and shock, torn between his role as captain and father, unable to shield me from the very system he upholds. Paramedics swarmed, checking me over as Mom arrived, her scrubs disheveled, tears streaming as she held my hand. "Baby, hang on, I'm here." In the ambulance en route to the hospital, hooked to monitors, the pain throbbed, but the emotional wound burned hotter. Everything I thought about my safety. My family's shield lay shattered in one brutal moment. But my phone, still in my pocket, had captured the audio. I knew this wasn't the end. The ambulance ride felt like an eternity, the sirens wailing outside while I lay on the stretcher, my body still aching from the taser's jolt. Every bump in the road sending fresh waves of pain through my muscles. My mind raced with confusion and anger, replaying the cop's sneer and how he'd dismissed me like I was nothing, even as the paramedics monitored my heart rate and assured me the effects would wear off soon. Mom sat beside me, holding my hand tight, her fingers trembling as she whispered encouragements. But I could see the fear in her eyes. This wasn't just about the physical hurt. It was the violation of trust in a system Dad had dedicated his life to. We pulled into the emergency bay at the hospital where Mom works, and they wheeled me straight inside. The fluorescent lights overhead glaring down as nurses I recognized from family visits swarmed around, hooking me up to more machines and starting an IV for fluids. "Jamal, we're going to run some tests to make sure there's no lasting damage," one of them said gently, patting my shoulder, but I barely nodded, still too dazed to speak much. Dad arrived minutes later, bursting through the doors with that commanding stride of his. But his face was etched with worry I'd rarely seen. He pulled up a chair beside the bed, grabbing my other hand. "Son, tell me exactly what happened, from the beginning." I took a shaky breath, the beeps of the monitors filling the pause, and started recounting it all. The bench, the phone scroll, Reynolds' aggressive approach. "He didn't even give me a chance, Dad. I told him who you were, but he just laughed it off, called me a thug. Then he twisted my arm, and when I flinched, bam, the taser. It felt like my whole body was exploding. My voice cracked a bit, the humiliation bubbling up again, making my chest tight. Dad's jaw clenched, his eyes darkening with rage. That bastard! I've heard whispers about Reynolds, new transfer, but complaints from his old precinct about roughing up minorities. I never thought it'd hit home like this. He stood up, pacing the small room, his uniform rumpling as he ran a hand through his hair. I should have been out there sooner. Damn meetings. Mom shot him a look, her voice sharp but steady. Meetings? Our son was attacked right outside your station, Marcus. This isn't just a mistake, it's racism, plain and simple. How many times have we talked about this happening to other families? Now it's us. She turned back to me, smoothing the blanket over my legs. "Jamal, honey, did anyone see? Was there video or something?" That's when I remembered my phone again, pulling it out with shaky hands. The screen was cracked from the fall, but it worked. "Yeah, Mom. I was on a call with Tyler when it started. The audio recorded everything. Listen." I played it back, the cops' mocking words echoing in the room. "You punks think you can hang around here? Not on my watch." Then my protests, the scuffle, the zap of the taser. Dad stopped pacing, leaning in to hear, his expression turning steely. "This is gold, Jamal. Proof he escalated without cause. But we have to be smart. Department will try to bury it as a misunderstanding." Just then, the door swung open, and there was Reynolds himself, escorted by Sergeant Ramirez, his face ashen and uniform disheveled like he'd been dragged here against his will. "Captain Thompson, sir, I came to apologize. I had no idea he was your son." It was dark, he looked suspicious, standard procedure. Dad whirled on him, voice low and dangerous. "Standard procedure? You tased a kid for sitting on a bench, Reynolds. My kid. Get out before I do something I'll regret." Reynolds backed away, muttering more excuses, but Ramirez pulled him aside, whispering something about internal review. As they left, Mom hugged me carefully, her tears dampening my shirt. "We're not letting this go, baby. This pain you're feeling? It's not just yours, it's a wake-up call for all of us." I nodded, the adrenaline fading into exhaustion, but a fire kindling inside me. This aftermath was just starting, and with that recording, I had something to fight back with. The hospital room felt suffocating after Reynolds slunk out with Ramirez dragging him away, the door clicking shut behind them like a temporary seal on the chaos. But my mind wouldn't stop spinning from the pain meds kicking in and the raw anger still simmering. Inside me, Mom adjusted the pillow behind my head, her hands gentle, but her face set in that determined lines I've seen when she's dealing with tough patience at work, while Dad resumed his pacing near the window, staring out at the parking lot as if the answers were out there under the streetlights. I shifted on the bed, wincing as the IV tugged at my arm and broke the silence first. "Dad, you said Reynolds has a history. What kind of complaints? Is this the first time he's pulled something like this?" He stopped pacing and turned to me, his shoulders slumping a bit under the weight of it all, rubbing his temples like he was trying to push back a headache. "Jamal, it's not the first. Back at his old precinct, there were reports, 3, maybe 4, from Black and Latino folks saying he roughed them up during routine stops, called them names, used force when it wasn't needed. Internal Affairs looked into it, but it got swept under as overzealous policing. I pulled his file when he transferred here a month ago. Figured he'd shape up under my watch. Guess I was wrong." His voice carried that mix of regret and fury, like he was mad at himself as much as the cop. Mom crossed her arms, leaning against the wall, her scrubs wrinkled from the rushed drive over. "Marcus, you should have flagged him sooner. Our son is lying here because of your watch. How many more kids have to get hurt before the department does something real?" She wasn't yelling, but her words cut sharp, the kind of truth that hangs heavy in the air. And I could see Dad flinch, his eyes dropping to the floor for a second. "I know, Lena, I know," Dad replied, moving closer to the bed and sitting on the edge. his hand resting on my leg. But jumping the gun without solid proof could have backfired, lawsuits, union pushback. Now, with Jamal's audio, we've got leverage. That recording shows he ignored your explanation, escalated for no reason. It's not just words, it's evidence of bias. He looked at me then, his expression softening. Son, how are you really feeling? Not just the body, the head, this racial profiling crap. It's hit us before, but never like this, so close. I swallowed hard, the lump in my throat making it tough to speak at first. The beeps from the heart monitor picking up pace as the emotions surged back. It hurts, Dad. Not just the shock, though, that was like being lit up from the inside. It's the way he looked at me, like I was trashed just for being black and sitting there. I told him about you and he laughed it off, made me feel small, worthless. And yeah, I've felt those stares before, at school or the mall, but this, tasing me outside your precinct, it's like nowhere's safe, not even with you as captain. My voice broke a little and Mom came over, sitting on the other side of the bed, wrapping an arm around my shoulders carefully. Baby, you're not worthless, don't you ever think that, she said firmly, her tone fierce like she was ready to fight the world for me. This is exactly why we push you so hard in school, why we live where we do. But even with all that, the system's rigged sometimes. Your dad and I have talked about it endless nights, how to protect you from this ugliness. And now it's here, in our faces. She glanced at Dad, her eyes softening just a touch. Marcus, we can't let this slide. File the report tonight. Use your pull to get IA involved fast. Dad nodded slowly, pulling out his phone and scrolling through contacts. But he hesitated, looking between us. I will, but we have to play it smart. Reynolds already came groveling. Means he's scared, knows he screwed up big. If we push too hard too soon, the blue wall might close ranks. But with that audio, and if we can find those old complaints, tie them together, it'll stick. He dialed a number, putting it on speaker as it rang. And Sergeant Ramirez picked up on the second tone. Captain, everything okay with Jamal? Ramirez asked, his voice tinny through the speaker, concern evident even over the line. He's stable, but we're not done here, Dad replied, his captain voice back in full force. I need you to pull Reynolds' full transfer file, every complaint, every note, and secure any precinct cameras that might have caught the incident. We're building a case. There was a pause on the other end, then Ramirez sighed. Sir, you know that'll stir things up. Some guy's already whispering it's a misunderstanding, kid in the wrong place. Misunderstanding? Mom jumped in, leaning toward the phone like she could glare through it. He tased my boy for waiting on a bench. If that's a misunderstanding, then the whole department needs glasses. Get those files, Sergeant, or I'll march down there myself. Ramirez cleared his throat. Understood, ma'am. I'll have them ready by morning. And Captain, for what it's worth, I'm sorry this happened. Jamal's a good kid, everyone knows that. Dad ended the call, setting the phone down with a heavy sigh, and the room fell quiet again. Just the hum of hospital machines filling the space. I looked at them both, feeling a weird mix of vulnerability and strength bubbling up. Thanks for having my back. But what if this blows back on you, Dad? The department? Your career? He met my eyes, steady and resolute. Family first, always. If standing up means ruffling feathers, so be it. This profiling has to stop, and if it starts with exposing Reynolds, that's where we begin. Mom nodded in agreement, squeezing my hand. And for the first time since the taser hit, I felt a spark of hope amid the pain. This confrontation wasn't just words. It was the start of fighting back. The doctor came in then, clipboard in hand, breaking the moment with updates on my tests. Everything looked good. No long-term damage, but I'd need to rest for a few days. As he left, Dad's phone buzzed with a text from Ramirez. Files incoming. Mom stood up, stretching her back. I'll grab us some coffee from the cafeteria. We might be here a while planning next steps. She kissed my forehead before heading out, leaving Dad and me alone. Son, this hits close because I've seen it from the other side, Dad admitted, his voice lower now. More personal. Cops like Reynolds give us all a bad name. But exposing him? It could change things, make the force better. You ready for that fight? I nodded, gripping the bedsheet. Yeah, Dad, let's make him pay for what he did. The seeds of doubt about Reynolds' past were planted firm now, and as Mom returned with steaming cups, we huddled together, reviewing the audio again, discussing how racial profiling had invaded our safe world, turning our family bond into a weapon for justice. The confrontation wasn't over, it was just gearing up. The discharge papers crinkled in my hand as we left the hospital that night. The cool air hitting my face like a reminder that the pain wasn't over, just because the doctors said I was fine, but Mom insisted on driving us home. Her grip tight on the wheel while Dad sat shotgun, staring out the window in silence. My body still throbbed from the taser, a dull ache in my muscles that made every step feel heavy. But it was the mental replay looping in my head that kept me up. The cop's sneer. The way he'd called me a thug without a second thought. We pulled into our driveway around midnight. The house lights welcoming, but the neighborhood quiet. Like nothing had changed, though everything felt different now. I headed straight to my room upstairs, dropping my backpack by the desk and sinking onto the bed. But sleep wasn't coming easy with that humiliation burning in my chest, making me grab my phone to listen to the audio again. The cop's voice crackling through the speakers like a fresh slap. "Mom, Dad, come here," I called down the hall, my voice louder than I intended, and they both appeared in the doorway moments later. Mom still in her scrubs and Dad loosening his tie. "What's up, Jamal? You should be resting," Mom said, stepping in and sitting on the edge of the bed, her hand automatically checking my forehead like I was a little kid again. I held up the phone, replaying the clip, the approach, the accusations, my calm explanations ignored. Then the scuffle and the zap that dropped me. "Listen to how he says you punks. It's not just me. It's like he sees every black kid that way. We talked about his history at the hospital, Dad. What else is in those files Ramirez sent?" Dad sighed, pulling out his own phone and scrolling through the emails Ramirez had forwarded. His face illuminated by the screen as he sat in my desk chair. "All right, son, but this stays between us for now. No blasting it online or anything rash. We build this quietly." He opened the attachments, PDFs of old reports popping up, and started reading aloud. Complaint 1. 6 months ago, traffic stop on a black driver, claimed suspicious behavior. Used force to cuff him despite compliance. Victim said Reynolds muttered something about "your kind always running." IA dismissed it as hearsay. Mom leaned over his shoulder, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the screen. "Hearsay? That's code for sweeping it under the rug. Keep going, Marcus. What's next?" Dad scrolled down, his voice steady but tense. Complaint 2. Last year, broke up a gathering at a park. Mostly black teens hanging out after a game. Reynolds tased one for resisting. But witnesses said the kid was just asking why they had to leave. Again, no body cam footage submitted, case closed with a warning. I felt a chill run through me, leaning forward despite the ache in my side, grabbing the phone from Dad to read for myself. "This is a pattern, Dad. He's got a thing against us, black people, I mean. And now he did it to me, right outside your precinct. If we don't do something, he'll keep getting away with it." Mom nodded, standing up to pace a little, her arms crossed tight. "Exactly, Jamal. Marcus, you can't protect the department over your own son. Those records show bias clear as day. We need to connect it to what happened today. Your audio is the link." Dad rubbed his chin, looking reluctant but nodding slowly, like he was weighing the risks. "I get it, but going after a fellow officer, it could backlash. The union might rally, call it a witch hunt. But yeah, the pattern's there. 3 complaints in 2 years, all involving minorities, all minimized." He forwarded the files to his laptop on my desk, opening them bigger for us to see side by side. "Look here, in each case, no video evidence presented. Reynolds claims equipment malfunction every time. Suspicious, right?" I pointed at the screen, my finger tracing the dates. "And today's no different. He didn't have his body cam on, or if he did, bet it's malfunctioned again, but I have audio. What if we check the precinct security cams? You mentioned them earlier. Those cover the front bench area." Mom snapped her fingers, her eyes lighting up. "Good thinking, baby. Marcus, you can access those, can't you? Pull the footage quietly. Match it with the audio timestamps. That'll show his aggressive approach from the start, no provocation." Dad hesitated, glancing at the door like someone might overhear. But then he logged into the department's remote system from his laptop, his credentials popping up the video archives. "All right, but if anyone asks, this is for an internal review. Here's the feed from this afternoon. Timestamp matches your call log, Jamal." Videos we watched together. The grainy footage showing me sitting peacefully on the bench, phone in hand. Then Reynolds' car pulling up sharp, him jumping out with hand on taser, barking orders before I even stood. "See? No threat, no loitering issue. He targeted me right away," I said, my voice rising with a mix of anger and vindication, zooming in on the video where he grabs my arm first. Dad paused the clip, exporting a copy to a USB drive he pulled from his pocket. "You're right. This plus the audio paints a clear picture of excessive force driven by bias. Those old complaints? We can reference them in our report to IA, show it's not isolated." Mom sat back down, her hand on my knee. "But we need more than that to make it stick." "What about witnesses? Anyone else see it happen? That crowd outside the precinct. Someone must have recorded." I thought back, nodding as the memory sharpened. "Yeah, there was this lady with a stroller and a guy on his bike stopped to watch. And Sergeant Ramirez, he saw the aftermath, but maybe he can vouch for how Reynolds acted." Dad added Ramirez to a quick text thread, typing out, "Need any bystander info from the scene?" Discreetly. His phone buzzed back almost immediately. Got two names, woman named Carla Diaz. Recorded on her phone. Bike guy is Tom Wilkins. Gave a statement already. Sending contact info. Mom smiled faintly. The first real one since this started. See? Pieces are coming together. Jamal, you rest now. We'll handle the calls tomorrow. But this motivates me. No more letting guys like Reynolds slide because of the badge. I leaned back against the pillows, the exhaustion hitting but that fire still burning. Thanks, but I'm in this too. I can't just shake it off the way he looked at me, like I was nothing because of my skin. Building this case quietly? Yeah, but when we drop it, it'll hit hard. Dad stood up, pocketing the USB. It will, son. For now, we gather everything, audio, video, witnesses, those old files. Motivate us to expose the bias before he hurts someone else. He clapped my shoulder gently, heading out with Mom, who turned off the light but left the door cracked. Alone in the dark, I replayed the precinct video on my phone one more time, zooming on Reynolds' face, that smug contempt twisting into panic when Ramirez called him out. It fueled me, turning the humiliation into resolve. We were digging deeper, and with Dad's help, even reluctant, we'd build a case that couldn't be ignored. Tomorrow, we'd reach out to those witnesses, tie it all together quietly. But the escalation was coming. I could feel it building like a storm. As I finally drifted off, the house settling around me, I knew this wasn't just about me anymore. It was about every kid who'd faced the same crap from cops like him. And with the evidence stacking up, motivation surged. We'd make sure his bias came back to bite him hard. The next morning hit me like a truck. My body still sore from the tasers. I rolled out of bed, sunlight filtering through the curtains in my room. But that ache in my muscles was nothing compared to the fire in my gut to keep pushing forward. I grabbed a quick breakfast downstairs, cereal and toast that Mom had set out before heading to her shift, and Dad was already at the kitchen table, laptop open with those files from Ramirez spread out, sipping his coffee black like always. I sat down across from him, pouring myself a bowl, and said, "Dad, we got those witness contacts last night, Carla Diaz and Tom Wilkins. We should call them today, get their sides before Reynolds tries to spin this." He looked up from the screen, nodding as he pushed a printout toward me with their numbers scribbled on it. "Yeah, son, but let's be careful. Don't lead them. Just ask what they saw. I'll handle the official statements later. But your audio and the precinct cam already show he jumped the gun. If they confirm he ignored you explaining, that's gold for IA." Mom walked in then, grabbing her keys from the counter, her scrubs fresh for the day, and leaned over to kiss my cheek. "Jamal, you sure you're up for this? The doctor said rest, but if you're talking to people, record the calls just in case." I smiled weakly, feeling that mix of nerves and resolve as I nodded. "I'm good, Mom. This evidence is what'll nail him. Can't just sit here hurting without doing something." She hugged me quick, then headed out the door with a wave, leaving Dad and me to dive in. I picked up my phone first, dialing Carla Diaz, the lady with the stroller who'd been walking by when it all went down, and put it on speaker so Dad could hear, the ringtone echoing in the quiet kitchen. A woman's voice answered after a few rings, sounding a bit hesitant. "Hello? This is Carla." "Hi, Ms. Diaz. This is Jamal Thompson, the kid from outside the precinct yesterday. Sergeant Ramirez gave me your number. I was hoping you could tell me what you saw. Maybe help with a statement about the cop who tased me." I kept my tone steady, glancing at Dad, who gave a thumbs up. There was a pause, then she sighed. "Oh, honey, that was awful. I saw the whole thing. You were just sitting there on the bench, minding your business, scrolling your phone like any teenager. That officer pulled up fast, got out yelling about loitering. Didn't even let you finish saying your dad worked inside. You stayed calm, hands up, but he grabbed you rough, and when you pulled back a little, he tased you right there. Shocking, really. My baby's stroller was just feet away. I recorded it on my phone because it looked wrong from the start." My heart raced hearing that, leaning forward as Dad jotted notes on a pad. "You recorded it? That's huge, Ms. Diaz. Would you send me the video and maybe write down what you just said for the report?" She agreed quickly, her voice firming up. "Absolutely, kid. I've dealt with bad cops before. My brothers had run-ins. I'll email the video and a statement to the address you give me. That man needs to be off the streets." I gave her Dad's work email, thanked her profusely, and hung up. The phone still warm in my hand as I looked at Dad. "She has video, Dad, from a different angle. Shows me being calm the whole time." He grinned for the first time since this mess started, closing his laptop. "Perfect. That compiles with your audio and the cam footage. Let's hit Tom Wilkins next. He's the bike guy. Ramirez said he gave a preliminary statement already, but let's lock it in." I nodded, dialing the next number, my fingers a bit shaky from the adrenaline. And Tom picked up almost right away, his voice gruff like he'd been out riding again. "Yeah, this is Tom. Who's this?" "Tom, it's Jamal Thompson from the precinct incident yesterday. You stopped on your bike, right?" Saw the cop tase me? He chuckled dryly. How could I forget? Pulled over to check my tires and bam. There's this officer going off on a kid for no reason. You weren't loitering. You told him straight up your dad was the captain inside. Offered to prove it. He blew it off, called you a punk or something, twisted your arm. When you reacted, he lit you up with that taser. Uncalled for, man. I told the sergeant that already, but if you need me to repeat it officially, I'm game. Dad leaned in, speaking up. This is Captain Thompson, Tom. Appreciate you stepping up. Can you email a signed statement, and did you catch any video? Tom paused, then said, No video from me. Phone was in my pocket, but yeah. I'll write it up and send it. That cop's got an attitude problem. Seen types like him before. Glad the kid's okay. We exchanged emails, hung up, and I sat back, the cereal forgotten as excitement built. Dad, both witnesses say the same. He ignored my explanations, escalated fast. With Carla's video, we've got multiple angles showing the bias. Just then, Dad's phone buzzed on the table, an unknown number flashing, and he answered it warily, putting it on speaker. Captain Thompson! A familiar voice came through, slick and defensive, Reynolds. Captain, it's me. Look, about yesterday I didn't know he was your boy. It was just protocol. Kid looked shady sitting there. No hard feelings, right? Tell him to drop it or things could get messy with the union backing me. My blood boiled hearing that, clenching my fists under the table as Dad's face hardened. Messy? You tased my son for waiting on a bench, Reynolds. We've got evidence, cameras, audio, witnesses. This isn't dropping. It's going to IA. Stay away from my family. Reynolds laughed nervously, trying to backpedal. Come on, sir, it was a mistake. I could talk to the kid, smooth it over. No need for reports that'll tank my career over nothing. I couldn't stay quiet, grabbing the phone. Nothing? You called me a thug, ignored me saying who my dad was, and shocked me like I was trash. That's not protocol. That's you hating on black kids. We've got videos proving it. Back off. He stammered, Hey, watch it, punk. I mean, Jamal. Union'll fight this. You'll look bad dragging it out. Dad snatched the phone back, ending the call with a sharp, Don't contact us again. This is harassment now. He set it down, shaking his head. Intimidation through back channels, classic. But that call? We can log it as attempted coercion. Fuels our case even more. I stood up, pacing the kitchen a bit, the soreness in my body ignored as determination surged. He's scared, Dad, trying to bully me into silence, but it just makes me madder. Let's compile all this. The statements, Carla's video when it comes, Tom's write-up, your cam footage, my audio. Tie it to those old complaints showing his pattern. Dad opened his laptop again, creating a new folder labeled Reynolds Case, and we started organizing. I forwarded the witness emails as they came in, Carla's video arriving first, a clear clip from across the street showing Reynolds' aggressive stance from the jump, me with hands up, explaining calmly, him dismissing and grabbing. Look at this, I said, playing it for Dad. The sound faint, but my words audible. My dad's Captain Thompson. And him snarling back, Yeah, right, thug. Tom's statement pinged in next, a simple PDF detailing the same, no provocation, excessive force. Dad added the old complaint files, highlighting the similarities, ignored explanations, quick to tase, racial slurs implied. This compilation shows bias, Jamal. He targets minorities, escalates without cause. With this, IA can't ignore it. But as we worked, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Drop it or regret it. Protocol saves lives. I showed Dad, my hands steady now. Reynolds again, trying to scare me. Dad took a screenshot, adding it to the folder. Intimidation evidence. We'll report this too. Tensions are rising, but so's our leverage. Mom texted then, checking in from work. How's it going? Stay safe. I replied quick, assuring her we were building strong. By afternoon, we'd compiled a solid packet, statements, videos, audio, texts, old records, all showing Reynolds ignored my innocence, driven by prejudice. His back-channel threats only fueled my fire, turning fear into unbreakable determination. We printed copies, Dad securing them in his briefcase for IA tomorrow. Good work, son. This evidence is airtight. I nodded, feeling empowered despite the pain. He thought he could intimidate me, but it backfired. Now we've got everything to take him down. As the day wore on, tensions simmered, but our case grew stronger, ready for the next push. The afternoon sun was dipping low by the time Dad and I finished compiling that evidence packet in. The kitchen, the table cluttered with printouts and our laptops side by side. But the high from gathering those witness statements and Carla's video started fading when his phone rang again, this time from the precinct's main line. I watched him answer it, his face shifting from focused to tense as he listened, nodding occasionally with short grunts like, uh-huh, and I see. He hung up after a minute, setting the phone down carefully. and looked at me with that heavy expression I'd seen when he had bad news from work. That was Deputy Chief Harlan Jamal. Word's getting around about the complaint we're building. He wants me to come in for a meeting tomorrow. Says it's about department morale and keeping things in-house. I leaned back in my chair, the soreness in my side from the taser flaring up a bit as I crossed my arms, feeling a knot form in my stomach. What does that mean? Dad? They're trying to shut us down already? We just got started with this evidence. Carla's video shows everything clear, him ignoring me completely. He rubbed his eyes, standing up to pour himself another coffee from the pot on the counter, the mug clinking against the granite as he stirred in sugar slowly. It's pressure, son. Harlan's old school, thinks airing dirty laundry makes us all look bad. He mentioned the union's already buzzing, saying Reynolds is a solid guy who made a mistake. They want me to handle it quietly. Maybe a suspension or transfer. No full IA probe that could go public. Mom got home from her shift right then, dropping her bag by the door with a tired sigh. But she picked up on the vibe immediately, kicking off her shoes and joining us at the table. What's going on? You two look like you swallowed lemons. Did the witnesses back out or something? I shook my head, pushing the printed statements toward her as she sat down, her eyes scanning them quickly. No, Mom, they're solid. Tom's statement matches Carla's video perfectly, shows Reynolds escalating for no reason. But Dad just got a call from his boss trying to talk him out of pushing this. Dad set his coffee down, sitting again and meeting Mom's gaze steadily. Lena, it's not that simple. Harlan's hinting that if I pursue this hard, it could affect my standing, promotions, team support. The blue wall's thick. Guys are saying it's family business since Jamal's my son, but going after Reynolds could divide the precinct. Mom's face hardened, her fingers tapping the table as she flipped through the old complaint files we'd added to the packet. Divide the precinct, Marcus? This man tased our boy because he saw a black teen and assumed the worst. Those old reports show it's not the first time, roughing up minorities, ignoring their words. If you back down now, what message does that send to Jamal? That even with a captain for a dad, justice bends for the badge? I felt a surge of agreement with Mom, but also this twist of worry looking at Dad, seeing the conflict in his eyes like he was torn between us and the job he'd built his life around. Dad, come on, you said family first last night. We've got the audio, the cams, the witnesses, even his dumb threats on text. If we drop it, he'll do this to someone else, someone without your pull. He nodded slowly, but his voice came out measured, like he was trying to convince himself too. I know, Jamal, and I'm not saying drop it entirely. But maybe we compromise, a private reprimand, mandatory bias training. Going full exposure could backlash on all of us. Media gets involved, and suddenly the whole department's under fire. I've got officers who depend on me, good ones who'd suffer if trust breaks. Mom stood up then, her chair scraping back a little too loud, frustration boiling over as she pointed at the packet. Compromise? That's what they always say when it's one of their own? Marcus, remember when you took this captain job, you promised to clean up crap like this. Now it's our family hurt, and you're waffling because of pressure from above? Jamal's still sore, humiliated, and you want to let Reynolds skate with a slap? I jumped in, feeling that betrayal creep back in like when Reynolds dismissed me on the bench, my voice rising despite trying to stay calm. Mom's right, Dad. It feels like you're choosing them over me again. Yesterday you were all in, pulling files, getting the cam footage. Now one call from Harlan and you're talking compromise? What about the pattern in those complaints? He's biased, and ignoring it makes you part of the problem. Dad raised his hands, his tone sharpening as the argument heated up. Hey, don't put words in my mouth. I'm not choosing anyone. I'm thinking long term. If I burn bridges, how do I protect other kids from this later? As captain, I can push reforms from inside. Blowing it up might get Reynolds out, but it could cost me the position to make real change. Mom shook her head, moving to the sink to rinse her hands, but her words cut across the room. Real change? You've been captain for years, Marcus. And guys like Reynolds still transfer in with red flags. Jamal's pain isn't a bargaining chip for your career. We fight this now, or what was the point of compiling all this? The room got quiet for a second, the tension thick like a storm cloud, and I grabbed my laptop, opening it to distract myself but also to dig more, pulling up Reynolds' old precinct website on a hunch. Fine, if you're doubting, let's look deeper. Those complaints mentioned emails or something. Maybe there's digital trail. You have access to interdepartment shares, right, Dad? He hesitated, glancing at Mom, who nodded encouragingly, and then logged into his secure portal from my laptop, his fingers typing slower than usual. All right, but this is off the record for now. Searching his name in the archived comms. Here, a thread from last year. Wait, emails between Reynolds and a buddy at his old station. I leaned in, reading over his shoulder as the messages loaded, my eyes widening at the words jumping out. Racist crap like, "These hood rats always play the victim card," and tased another one loitering. Felt good cleaning up the streets. Mom came over too, her hand on my shoulder as she read, gasping softly. "Marcus, look at this, straight up hate speech. He even jokes about profiling works, keeps them in line. This isn't just bias, it's documented racism." Dad scrolled through more, his face paling as the leverage stared back at us. Emails time-stamped and traceable. Damn, this is explosive. If these get to IA with the rest, it's not just excessive force, it's hate-motivated misconduct. Harlan can pressure all he wants, but this changes the game. I felt a rush of vindication, the betrayal easing a bit as I saved screenshots of the emails to our packet folder. "See, Dad, we can't compromise on this. Those words he thinks like that about people like me. If you drop it, I don't know if I can trust the system or you in it." Mom squeezed my shoulder, turning to Dad with a softer tone now. "He's right, Marcus. This uncovers the root racism fueling his actions. We use it, escalate our leverage, and push through the pressure. Family unity means standing together here." Dad closed the laptop, standing up and pulling us both into a quick hug, his voice firming up. "Okay, you win. Those emails seal it, no backing down. I'll face Harlan tomorrow. Tell him we're going full IA with everything, including this new dirt. It might strain things at work, but you're right. Can't let it fracture us at home." The argument lingered in the air as we cleared the table. But uncovering those emails shifted the balance, giving us even stronger leverage against Reynolds. Mom started dinner in the kitchen, chopping vegetables with renewed energy, while Dad texted Ramirez for any more archived stuff. "We'll add these emails to the packet, Jamal. Shows his mindset ties directly to what he did to you." I nodded, helping set plates, feeling the internal conflict resolve into solidarity. "Thanks for listening, Dad. I was feeling betrayed again, like the tasing all over. But this, it's proof we need to end him." He clapped my back gently. "No more doubt. We're in this together, escalating to take him down proper." As we sat down to eat, the phone stayed quiet. But I knew the pressure wasn't over. Colleagues might push more. But with those racist remarks in hand, our leverage had just skyrocketed, turning family arguments into unbreakable resolve. The next morning, after that heated family argument and uncovering those damning emails, I woke up early with a sense of purpose burning through the lingering ache in my body from the taser. Grabbing a quick shower before heading downstairs where Dad was already suited up in his uniform, the evidence packet tucked under his arm in that black briefcase he uses for work stuff. Mom was in the kitchen packing lunches, her movements sharp and focused like she was gearing up for battle too. And she looked up as I entered, sliding a plate of eggs and toast my way. "Jamal, you ready for this? Your dad's heading to the precinct to file with IA today. We're not waiting around for more pressure." I nodded, sitting down and digging into the food, my appetite back for the first time since the incident, feeling that resolve solidify after Dad's turnaround last night. "Yeah, Mom, I'm good. Those emails are the nail in the coffin. Shows Reynolds isn't just aggressive, he's straight up racist. Dad, you sure Harlan won't block it?" Dad set the briefcase on the counter, pouring himself a travel mug of coffee. His expression steady but with that underlying tension from the deputy chief's call yesterday. "He might try, son, but with this packet, your audio, the precinct cam, Carla's video, Tom's statement, the old complaints, those screenshots of his emails, even the logs of his intimidation calls and texts, it's too solid. IA is independent enough. They have to investigate once filed. I'll present it all, make it official." Mom handed him his lunch bag, her voice firm as she zipped it up. "And if they drag their feet, Marcus, we've seen how these things get buried. Maybe we should loop in a lawyer friend, just in case." He kissed her cheek, grabbing the briefcase again. "Let's start with IA. Escalate if needed. Jamal, you stay home today. Rest up. I'll text updates." I watched him head out the door, the car starting up in the driveway, and turned to Mom as she sat across from me, her hands folding together on the table. "What if Reynolds finds out and flips, Mom? He's already tried scaring me with those texts." She reached over, covering my hand with hers. "Then we document that too, baby. He's digging his own grave. Eat up, we'll monitor from here." A couple hours later, as I scrolled news on my phone in the living room, Dad texted, "Filing now. Harlan pulled me aside first, tried talking me down. Reynolds is remorseful. Let's handle internally." I told him no, this is bigger. Packet submitted to IA lead. I showed Mom the message and she nodded approvingly. But then my phone buzzed with another text from an unknown number. "Your dad's stirring crap. Kid like you's trouble. Word's out." I screenshotted quick, forwarding to Dad with a note. "Reynolds again? Spreading rumors." Mom's eyes widened as she read over my shoulder. "That's retaliation, Jamal. Call your dad. Tell him to add it to the file right now." I dialed Dad immediately, putting it on speaker as he picked up. his voice echoing a bit like he was in a hallway at the precinct. Jamal, what's up? I'm just leaving IA. They took the packet, said preliminary review starts today. Dad got another text, says I'm trouble, and word's out. He's spreading rumors about me to discredit us. There was a pause, then Dad's tone darkened. Son of a, all right, forward it. I'll loop back to IA, add it as ongoing harassment. Stay put, don't respond to him. I hung up, feeling that mix of anger and empowerment as Mom paced the room. Her phone in hand now, too. This backfires on him, Jamal. If he's talking smack, people will see through it, especially with the evidence. By midday, Dad called back, his voice more urgent as I answered in the kitchen while Mom made sandwiches. Jamal, Lena, update. IA's fast-tracking because of the emails. Those racist remarks lit a fire. But Reynolds is indeed rumbling, told a couple officers you're a problem kid with a record, trying to paint you as the aggressor. Harlan even mentioned hearing whispers, but I shut that down. Showed him your school transcripts and the videos. Mom grabbed the phone, her grip tight. A record? Our Jamal. That's slander, Marcus. What are you doing about it? Dad sighed through the line. Documenting it all. Told IA about the rumors. Turns out one officer who heard it came to me privately, said it didn't sit right. And get this, since the packet hit, 2 more victims contacted IA directly. One's a black guy from Reynolds' old precinct. Says he was tased for looking suspicious at a bus stop last year. Heard similar slurs. The other's a Latino teen who filed a complaint that got ignored, saw our story bubbling internally and came forward with his own video snippet. My heart pounded hearing that, leaning against the counter as I took the phone back. More victims, Dad. That's huge. His retaliation's backfiring already. Rumors about me being trouble, but now others are sharing their stories? Exactly, son. The first guy, Andre Williams, emailed IA with details matching the pattern, ignored explanations, quick force, racial comments. The teen, Miguel Santos, has a partial phone vid showing Reynolds calling him a wetback punk. They're adding it to the investigation. Harlan's backing off now, can't ignore multiple accounts. Mom smiled grimly, slicing the sandwiches and plating them. See? Counterattack working. But keep pushing, don't let them settle quiet. I nodded, eating with her at the table, the afternoon dragging as we waited for more. Around 3, Dad texted a group chat, back home soon. IA interviewing witnesses tomorrow, including Carla and Tom. Reynolds suspended pending probe effective immediately. I pumped my fist, showing Mom, who hugged me tight. He's off the streets, at least for now. But the rumors, how do we kill those? She sat back, thinking. Truth will out, baby. With more victims speaking, his lies crumble. Dad walked in an hour later, briefcase lighter now that the packet was filed, and dropped onto the couch with us, loosening his tie. Rough day, but productive. Reynolds cornered me in the lot before leaving, sneered about your brat causing drama, but I told him straight, evidence speaks louder than your mouth. Enjoy suspension. He stormed off, but word is the union's hesitant with the emails out. I leaned forward, eager. And the new victims, Dad? They're really piling on? He pulled out his phone, showing notes from IA. Andre's story, pulled over for nothing, tased when he questioned it, called boy like it was the 50s. Miguel, stopped walking home, accused of loitering, tased after protesting. Both mentioned bias, slurs, assumptions based on race. IA's compiling a full history now. Our case sparked it. Mom brought him a plate sitting beside him. So his counter, spreading rumors about Jamal, it's blowing up in his face. More people coming forward means the department can't bury this. Dad nodded, eating a bite before continuing. Precisely. One of the officers who heard the trouble kid talk came to IA voluntarily. Said Reynolds tried recruiting him to back the story, but he refused. Backfire big time now. Reynolds looks desperate. I felt a weight lift, standing up to pace a little, the soreness almost forgotten in the rush. This is it then. We filed, presented everything, videos, accounts, emails, and his retaliation just brought more heat. But what if he tries something else, like escalating outside work? Dad set his plate down, serious again. We stay vigilant, document anything. But with suspension, he's sidelined. IA promised updates. Next steps, formal hearing in a week. Mom squeezed his hand, then mine. We're winning this counterattack, family. Jamal, you started this by not backing down, proud of you. As evening fell, we reviewed the new victim statements Dad had summarized, tying them to our evidence, the momentum shifting hard against Reynolds. His rumors meant to silence us only amplified the voices. More victims emerging like a floodgate opened. I texted Tyler quick, updating him without details, feeling empowered as Dad fielded a call from Ramirez. Captain, another complaint just in. Woman says Reynolds harassed her son last month. Similar deal. IA's swamped now. Dad hung up, grinning faintly. See? Backlash on him. This counterattack's turning the tide. I nodded, settling in for dinner later. The house feeling safer with Reynolds suspended in the case building. But deep down, I knew the fight wasn't over. His desperation could lead to more. But with leverage stacking, we were ready to push back harder. A few days after Dad filed that packet with IA and Reynolds got slapped with suspension, things started moving faster than I expected. My body finally healing up enough from the taser that I could get back to school without wincing. Every time I sat down, but the emotional scar still itched like crazy whenever I thought about that smug cop treating me like dirt. I was in my room that evening, scrolling through my phone while Mom cooked dinner downstairs, when a notification popped up from the local news app. Something about police brutality scandal at suburban precinct with a thumbnail of the station's front steps. My heart skipped as I clicked it. Reading the headline aloud to myself, suspended officer accused of racial bias after tasing. Captain's son exclusive details leak. I bolted downstairs, phone in hand, yelling for Mom and Dad who were setting the table. The smell of lasagna filling the kitchen like normal life was trying to pretend nothing happened. Mom, Dad, look at this. Someone leaked the story to the media. It's all over the news site, talking about Reynolds' history, the tasing, even mentions the racist emails without quoting them directly. I shoved the phone toward them, my voice shaking with a mix of shock and excitement, watching Dad grab it first, his eyes scanning the article as Mom peered over his shoulder. Dad's face tightened, setting the phone down carefully on the counter like it was hot. Damn, that was fast. IA said they'd keep it internal until the hearing. But this says anonymous tip provided evidence clips. Who could have, Ramirez or one of the new victims? He paced a step, running a hand through his hair, while Mom picked up the phone again, reading aloud. Listen, sources reveal Officer Reynolds has a pattern of targeting Black and Latino individuals, with complaints dating back years. The latest incident involved tasing a 17-year-old Black teen for loitering outside the precinct, only to discover the boy is Captain Marcus Thompson's son. Oh, Jamal, they even have a blurred clip from Carla's video. Shows him approaching you aggressively. Mom's voice rose with outrage, handing the phone back to me as she turned to Dad. Marcus, this is good, right? Public pressure means they can't sweep it under. But how did it leak? You think Harlan's trying to control the narrative? I sat down at the table, replaying the clip in the article. It was edited short, but clear enough to see Reynolds barking orders at me on the bench, my hands up, no threat in sight. Whoever tipped them off included my audio too. Hear that? Him calling me a punk. Dad, this is blowing up. Look, comments already pouring in. People outraged. I scrolled the reactions, reading a few. This is why we can't trust cops. And racial profiling at its worst, fire him. Dad stopped pacing, pulling out his own phone as it started buzzing with calls. Probably from the precinct. It could be one of the victims who came forward, Andre or Miguel, maybe tired of waiting. Or hell, even that officer who reported Reynolds trying to recruit him for lies. But yeah, Lena, public revelation like this sparks change. Protests might follow. Media scrutiny on the department. He answered a call then, putting it on speaker. Ramirez's voice came through, urgent and low. Captain, you seeing the news? Stories everywhere, local TV picking it up too. Protests forming outside the precinct already, signs about end bias now. IA's pissed about the leak, but Harlan's calling an emergency meeting. Your boy's name's out there, but blurred face in the clips. Dad glanced at me, his expression a mix of worry and pride. Thanks for the heads up, Sergeant. Keep an eye on the crowd, peaceful so far? And any idea on the tipster? Ramirez hesitated. Peaceful, yeah, about 50 people now chanting for justice. Tipster, anonymous, but the media got docs matching what you filed, emails redacted. But enough to damn Reynolds. Some say it came from inside, maybe to force action. I leaned in toward the phone, my pulse racing. Sergeant, it's Jamal. People are protesting because of me. That's intense. But good, right? Puts pressure on them to do something real. Ramirez chuckled softly. Kid, you're a catalyst now. Yeah, it's good, exposes the rot. Stay safe, media might reach out to you directly. Dad ended the call and we sat there for a minute. The lasagna forgotten as Mom dished it out anyway, insisting we eat. Jamal, this turns your humiliation into something bigger, empowerment for others, Mom said, passing me a plate, her eyes fierce. But be careful if reporters call. We don't want twists biting back. Just then, my phone rang, an unknown number with a local area code, and I answered cautiously, putting it on speaker too. Hello? A woman's voice came through, professional and eager. Is this Jamal Thompson? This is Sarah Klein from Channel 5 News. We've seen the leak about the incident with Officer Reynolds. Would you do an on-camera interview? Share your side? It's blowing up. And your voice could inspire change. I froze for a second, looking at Dad who nodded slowly, mouthing, your call. Mom added, "Do it, baby, turn the pain into power." "Yeah, Miss Klein, I'll do it, but keep it real. No twisting my words. When?" She jumped on it. "Tomorrow morning, outside the precinct. Protests are growing. It'd be perfect backdrop. We'll protect your privacy if needed, but speaking out could spark more outrage against bias." I agreed, hanging up with a rush of nerves, but also this fire igniting. Me? The kid who got tased like trash now speaking to cameras. "Dad, you okay with this? Won't it mess with your job more?" He forked into his food, chewing thoughtfully before replying. "It might, son. Harlan'll hate the spotlight, but if it exposes Reynolds' history fully, it's worth it. Those protests? They're scrutinizing his whole record now, thanks to the leak." "Eat up. We prep your statement tonight." Mom nodded, serving herself last. "Absolutely. Jamal, focus on the pain, the shock, the betrayal, but end with hope. How standing up strengthens us. This revelation's your empowerment." We spent the evening huddled over the table, drafting what I'd say. Dad pulling up more from IA's updates. They'd confirmed the emails as authentic. And with the public outcry, the hearing was moved up. My phone kept buzzing with texts from friends at school. "Saw the news, you're famous? And proud of you, man, take him down." But one from Tyler stood out. "Protests at the precinct now, hundreds showing up. Your story's viral." By bedtime, I lay there staring at the ceiling. The humiliation from that bench twisting into something stronger, empowerment, like Mom said. The leak had sparked outrage, signs waving outside Dad's workplace demanding fire Reynolds and end racial profiling. His history under the microscope now, complaints resurfacing in comment sections. I drifted off thinking about the interview, ready to turn my voice into a weapon. The next morning, we drove to the precinct early, the crowd already thick. Maybe 200 people chanting, "Justice for Jamal," with signs bashing Reynolds as a racist bully. Sarah Klein met us at the edge, mic in hand. Camera rolling as protesters cheered when they spotted me. "Jamal, tell us what happened that day," she started, the lens zooming in as I stood tall. Dad and Mom flanking me supportively. I took a breath, speaking clear into the mic. I was just waiting for my dad, Captain Thompson, after school, sitting on that bench right there. Officer Reynolds pulled up, assumed I was loitering because I'm black, called me a thug, ignored me saying who my dad was. He twisted my arm, tased me when I flinched. It hurt like hell, but the humiliation? Feeling worthless because of my skin? That's what burns. And it's not just me. His history shows he does this to others. Those emails prove his bias. I'm speaking out so no one else suffers. The crowd erupted in cheers, Sarah nodding as she followed up. "And now with the leak protests, how do you feel?" "Empowered," I said, voice steady. "This revelation exposes him. Thanks to anonymous tips, videos, witnesses, it's all out. I want justice, reform. Dad's fighting from inside. I'm fighting here." Dad stepped in briefly. "As captain, I support accountability. My son's bravery inspires me." Sarah wrapped it, the clip airing live, and as we walked away, protesters patted my back. Sharing their own stories, similar tasings, ignored complaints. One woman hugged Mom. "Your boy's a hero. My son faced the same from Reynolds last year." Back home that afternoon, the story exploded, national outlets picking it up. Hashtags trending like "Justice for Jamal." Reynolds' history dissected online, old victims interviewed, scrutiny piling on the department. Harlan called Dad furious about the media storm, but Dad held firm. The truth's out. Deal with it. I watched from the couch as more protests footage played. Turning my private pain into public empowerment, the humiliation flipped into a movement. But Reynolds wasn't done. A text buzzed in from unknown. "You'll pay for this circus." I showed Dad, who logged it for IA. The revelation had sparked irreversible outrage, his downfall accelerating under the spotlight. The media storm from my interview kept raging a few days after it aired, with protests swelling outside the precinct every evening and national news outlets digging deeper into Reynolds' past. But the real climax hit when IA called that emergency hearing sooner than expected, scheduling it for the next morning in a stuffy conference room at headquarters downtown. I woke up early that day, my stomach twisting with nerves as I pulled on a button-up shirt and slacks, wanting to look put together for whatever went down, even though the ache from the taser had faded to just a memory. Mom fussed over my collar in the kitchen while Dad reviewed notes from the packet one last time. His uniform pressed sharp, and I grabbed a quick bagel before we piled into the car. The drive silent except for the radio buzzing about ongoing police bias scandal. We arrived at the building around 9, security buzzing us through to the third floor where the hearing room waited. A long table set up with microphones and a projector screen. Department heads already seated. Deputy Chief Harlan looking grim in his suit, the IA lead Ms. Vargas flipping through files, and a couple other brass I didn't recognize. Reynolds was there too, slouched in a chair at one end with his union rep beside him, his face red and sweaty like he'd been stewing all night, shooting me a glare as we walked in that made my blood boil all over again. Dad guided me to seats across from them, Mom sitting right behind us for support, her hand squeezing my shoulder as Vargas called the room to order, banging a small gavel lightly. "All right, this formal hearing on Officer Reynolds' misconduct starts now," Vargas said. Her voice crisped through the mic, adjusting her glasses as she nodded to the recorder. "We've reviewed the submitted evidence, audio from the incident, precinct camera footage, bystander video from Ms. Diaz, statements from Mr. Wilkins and others, prior complaints, those archived emails showing biased language, and logs of subsequent harassment. Captain Thompson, your opening remarks?" Dad stood up, clearing his throat as he faced the panel, his posture straight like he was addressing a squad. "Thank you, Ms. Vargas. This isn't just about one mistake. It's a pattern of racial bias and excessive force. My son Jamal was waiting peacefully outside my precinct, identified himself clearly. But Reynolds dismissed him based on appearance, used slurs, and tased him without cause. The evidence proves it, and the new victims who've come forward, Andre Williams, Miguel Santos, show this isn't isolated. Those emails? Undeniable hate speech. As captain, I demand full accountability to restore trust in our department." Harlan leaned forward, his fingers steepled, trying to play the mediator with that fake calm tone. "Captain, we appreciate your position, but let's hear from Officer Reynolds. This is blown up publicly. Maybe we can resolve internally, avoid more damage to morale." Reynolds jumped in before his rep could stop him, his voice snarling as he pointed across the table at me, his chair creaking under his weight. "This is bullshit. That kid was loitering like a thug, dark clothes, backpack, looking shady. I followed protocol. He resisted when I cuffed him. And yeah, I didn't know he was your son, Captain, but come on, these complaints are exaggerated. Those emails? Old jokes, taken out of context. Union's got my back. This is a witch hunt because he's black and connected." I couldn't stay quiet, standing up despite Dad's warning glance, my hands gripping the table edge as anger surged through me like that electric shock all over. Again. "Duh, jokes? You called black people hood rats and bragged about tasing them to clean the streets. That's not context, that's racism. I told you my dad was inside, offered proof, but you laughed it off, twisted my arm, and dropped me with that taser. It wasn't protocol, it was you seeing my skin and deciding I was worthless. And those texts you sent, threatening me to drop it, that's desperation because you know you're guilty." His union rep put a hand on his arm, whispering something, but Reynolds shrugged it off, his face twisting uglier as he leaned forward. "You little punk, yeah," I texted. "You started this circus with your leaks and interviews. Protests ruining my life, media hounding my family. I was doing my job, keeping scum off the streets. If you'd complied faster, none of this happens." Vargas banged the gavel harder, her eyes narrowing at him. "Officer, control yourself. That outburst just hurt your case. We've got the emails authenticated. They show clear bias. And the videos, multiple angles confirm Jamal complied. Hands visible, calm explanations ignored. Captain, present the compilation." Dad nodded, signaling to the tech guy who fired up the projector, the screen lighting up with a split view, my phone audio syncing with the precinct cam and Carla's. Bystander clip, showing Reynolds pulling up aggressive, barking orders, grabbing my arm first, me protesting about Dad, him sneering, "Yeah, right, thug." Then the taser firing as I pulled back in pain. The room went quiet watching it, Harlan shifting uncomfortably in his seat, and when it ended with Ramirez rushing out yelling, "That's the captain's son!" Even the union rep looked defeated. Andre Williams spoke next via video link, his face appearing on screen from his living room, his voice steady but edged with old anger. "Reynolds pulled me over last year for nothing. Said I looked suspicious driving in his neighborhood. I explained I lived nearby, but he cuffed me rough, tased me when I asked why, muttering, 'Your kind always complain.' It's the same crap he pulled on Jamal. Those emails? That's how he thinks." Miguel Santos followed, a teen about my age, holding up his phone vid snippet where Reynolds loomed over him, yelling, "Wetback punk, loitering again?" before shoving him against a wall. He ignored my ID, assumed I was illegal just because I'm Latino, tased me for protesting. Jamal's case gave me courage to speak. Enough's enough. Reynolds exploded again, slamming his fist on the table, his rep failing to rein him in this time. Lies, all of them ganging up. "Captain, your kid's a troublemaker, spreading rumors, leaking to media. I got rights. Union says this hearing's biased. Drop it or I'll sue for defamation." Dad stood tall, staring him down across the room, his voice booming like in a briefing. "Sue, with this evidence, you're done, Reynolds. Those defenses crumble under the facts. Videos don't lie. Emails don't lie. Victims don't lie. As captain, I've faced backlash from colleagues whispering family drama, but I stand firm. This exposes the need for change, bias training, body cams always on, zero tolerance for racism. Harlan, you see it. The department can't protect this. Harlan sighed, rubbing his temples as the panel whispered among themselves. Vargas taking notes furiously. Captain, your point's made. The public outcry's forcing our hand too. Protests won't stop till we act. I locked eyes with Reynolds, seeing his panic crack through the bluster, and added my piece calm but firm. You thought you could bully me silent, spread lies I was trouble. But look, evidence overwhelms you. I felt betrayed by the system, but speaking out restored my trust in Dad, in justice. This highlights change, no more hiding bias behind badges. Vargas nodded, addressing the room. Based on overwhelming evidence, patterns of bias, excessive force, harassment, we recommend immediate termination and referral for charges on assault, civil rights violations. Suspension holds till formal vote, but it's clear. Reynolds deflated, muttering curses as his rep pulled him back, the room erupting in low murmurs from the brass. Harlan approached Dad after, clapping his shoulder reluctantly. Marcus, this ruffled feathers, but you stood firm. Restores some faith, we'll push those reforms. Mom hugged me tight as we filed out, the weight lifting off my chest finally. Baby, you were brave in there. Family trust's solid now. Dad proved it. Dad nodded, walking us to the car. Yes, son, facing that backlash head on, worth it. Your courage highlighted the change we need. Reynolds' defenses shattered. Now he faces real consequences. Outside, protesters cheered as news cams caught us leaving, the climax hitting its peak. Evidence winning, trust restored, the path to justice clear. But Reynolds' glare from the doorway lingered, a hint of his bitterness, though powerless now. The hearing wrapped up with Vargas' recommendation, hanging in the air like a final judgment. The room still buzzing with tension as everyone filed out. But I felt this huge relief wash over me. My shoulders finally relaxing after days of carrying that weight from the tasing and all the fallout. Dad clapped my back gently as we walked down the hallway toward the elevators, his face showing that mix of exhaustion and victory he'd get after closing a big case at the precinct, and Mom linked her arm through mine, her steps lighter than they'd been since she rushed to the hospital that first night. Jamal, you did it, baby, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion as we pushed through the double doors into the lobby, the sounds of protesters still chanting faintly outside the building. That man won't hurt anyone else now. Your bravery made that happen. I nodded, squeezing her arm back, my mind replaying Reynolds' defeated slump in his chair, how his bluster had crumbled under the videos and testimonies like paper and fire. It wasn't just me, Mom. Dad standing up, the victim speaking out, it all added up. But yeah, seeing him face consequences feels like justice finally kicked in. We stepped outside into the bright afternoon sun, the crowd spotting us and erupting in cheers. Signs waving high with messages like justice served and no more bias. Cameras flashing as reporters swarmed closer, but Dad waved them off politely, guiding us toward the parking lot where our car waited. One reporter, Sarah Klein from my interview, pushed through gently, mic extended but respectful. Jamal. Quick word? IA just announced Reynolds is firing and charges for excessive force and civil rights violations. How do you feel knowing he's off the force for good? I stopped for a second, turning to her with a steady gaze, the crowd quieting a bit to hear. Relieved, mostly. He lost his badge, his reputation, everything he abused. Charges mean he'll face court, maybe time if convicted. It's a warning to others. Bias has no place in policing. But for me, it's healing. Physically, I'm back to normal. No more aches from that taser. Emotionally, though, knowing I helped stop him empowers me. Sarah nodded, jotting notes quick. And the department reforms? Your dad's pushing those now? Dad stepped up beside me, his voice carrying over the murmurs. Absolutely. Mandatory bias training starting next month. Body cams audited weekly. Zero tolerance for slurs or patterns like Reynolds. I've got Harlan's buy-in after the hearing. Public pressure sealed it. As captain, I'll oversee it personally. The crowd cheered louder, a few people clapping Dad on the shoulder as we moved on. One older black woman stopping me with tears in her eyes. Young man, my grandson dealt with something similar years ago. No justice then. You changed that. Thank you. I hugged her quick, feeling that spark of connection, my voice soft. We're all in this. Tell him things are shifting. Youth programs coming too, to bridge cops and kids. We made it to the car finally, Mom sliding into the back with me while Dad drove. The precinct protests fading in the rear view as we headed home to our quiet suburban street. The house looking welcoming with its familiar porch light even in daylight. Marcus, you think Reynolds will appeal? Mom asked from beside me, her hand still holding mine like she wasn't ready to let go yet. Dad glanced in the mirror, shaking his head firm. Union might try, but with the evidence, those synced videos, emails, all the testimonies, it's airtight. Charges include assault on me indirectly through Jamal, plus the harassment texts. He'll plead out, lose his pension maybe. His reputation's trashed. Media's labeling him a racist bully nationwide. No department will touch him again. I leaned back against the seat, watching the neighborhoods pass, feeling that emotional scar from the humiliation start to fade, replaced by this quiet strength. It's weird, Dad. Before this, I trusted the system because of you, but that tasing shook me. Now seeing you fight the backlash stand firm restores it. Family's stronger too. No more arguments. We're united. Mom smiled, patting my knee. Damn right, baby. And look at you, healing fast, back to school soon. But that fire you got, use it. Start that youth program we talked about. Police relations workshops for teens like you. We pulled into the driveway, the garage door rumbling open as Dad parked. All of us stepping out into the warm air, the normalcy hitting like a comfort blanket after the storm. Yeah, Mom, I'm on it. Already texted Tyler. We'll plan sessions at the community center. Invite officers like Ramirez to speak, share stories to prevent bias crap. Dad unlocked the front door, holding it for us as we went inside. The smell of home wrapping around me, fresh laundry from the dryer, faint coffee from breakfast. Good idea, son. I'll back it. Precinct resources, guest spots. Reforms start local. Your program's a step. Mom headed to the kitchen, pulling out ingredients for a celebratory dinner, her voice calling back. Steak tonight? We deserve it after that hearing win. I laughed, following her in, grabbing veggies to chop while Dad checked his phone for updates. Sounds perfect. No more looking over my shoulder for Reynolds' threats. He's done, facing real consequences now. Dad looked up from a text, grinning wide. IA confirm. Fired effective immediately. Charges filed this afternoon. Andre and Miguel texted thanks too. Their stories got heard because of you. I set the knife down, feeling tears prick my eyes, but in a good way, hugging Mom as she stirred sauce. It's over. Happy ending for us. Stronger family. Pushing change. Villain gets what he deserves. Jobless, shamed, maybe locked up. Mom turned, pulling Dad into the hug too, our arms tangled in the kitchen light. Proud of you both. This bonds us tighter, advocating together now. We ate dinner that night, laughing over details, planning the youth program. My phone buzzing with supportive messages from friends and even strangers online. Physically healed, emotionally whole, I started sketching program ideas on a notepad. Workshops on rights, bias awareness, cop-teen dialogues. Dad added notes on reforms, Mom on community outreach. Weeks later, the program launched at the center, teens showing up eager. Officers like Ramirez sharing honestly, no more blind trust but real bridges. Reynolds' trial loomed, his pleas falling flat under the evidence weight, his life crumbling as media hounded him, no badge to hide behind. I stood at the program's first session, addressing the group, voice confident. I got tased for nothing, but exposing that bias changed everything. Now, we build better together. The room applauded, Dad nodding from the back, Mom beaming beside him. Family grew unbreakable, advocating for reform, while Reynolds rotted in his consequences, a warning etched in department policy. Happy? Yeah, we earned it. Now, let me ask you honestly. If you were threatened, slandered, or forced to accept money to lie, would you have the courage to say no? Tell me about a time in your life when you were forced to remain silent to avoid trouble. If this story reminds you that your voice also has value, please like to support those who dare to speak up. Share so that one more person doesn't have to bow their head, and subscribe because this world needs more people like. On screen right now, you'll see 2 news stories I think you'll really enjoy. There are many more waiting for you on the channel. So don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss one. See you in the next story. Until then, take care of yourself and the people you love. With all my love and respect.